Yo, what's happening, people? Okay, so time for another Drive and Jive, where I drive and jive about something on my mind. And today I want to talk about old school music. Well, not quite, but sorta. So I've been listening to a lot of old school music lately, and by old school, for me, I'm talking about 90s. 90s was my era. For a lot of things, but in particular when it came to music, it was an era of discovery and just finding things that I still listen to today, things that have shaped my life, even though I didn't know that was happening at the time. So a lot of who I am today is because of things that happened during the 90s, and a lot of that was music. Music was a big part of that. So I've been listening to a lot of old school music from the 90s, and it's, bringing back memories and, reminiscing and all that stuff. And it kind of got me thinking though, because like a lot of people, well, I say a lot, let me not tell too many lies. It's not like I've done any research on this, but it seems to me that there's a respectable number of people who are about my age that would say things like, there's no more good music, and everything was better in the 90s, and all the music now is just trash. There's no good music anymore. It's all garbage now. That's stuff like that. And as I've been listening to a lot of this old school stuff, a lot of stuff that I grew up with, it's kind of got me thinking about that, because like it's reaffirmed something that I've believed for a while now, which is that there's no such thing as rubbish music. There's just music that speaks to you and music that don't, and if you're about my age, then the music of the 90s most likely spoke to you, way back when we were teenagers. It spoke to us because we were going through those things at the time, whether we knew it consciously or subconsciously. They would speak to us on levels that we might even fully understood what was going on at the time, but we knew that it just hit for some reason. And that's true for kids today. The music of today speaks to them on that level. And that's how it should be. That's how pretty much everything is. When we were kids, all the older stuff didn't really appeal to us for the most part, right? There's a few, of course, exceptions, like, stuff from the 70s or earlier. There's definitely a few exceptions, but for the most part, a lot of it wasn't really stuff that we cared about. But the grown-ups at that time would be saying things like, there's no good music anymore, everything's rubbish now. And we've effectively become that. We've become that grumpy old man, or grumpy old person, rather. Let me not be too sexist. Not today. But we've become that grumpy old person that says that sort of stuff. There's no good music anymore. Everything was better back in the 90s. Everything was better back in my day. There's no good music anymore. And the truth is that the music of today just doesn't speak to us. It speaks to the kids of today. It speaks to the teenagers of today. That's not to say that you can't enjoy music of today. Of course, I feel like the more you accept the facts that it's not made for you, the more you can just enjoy it for what it is. The more you can just appreciate that this is a result of the world that we made. Because let's keep it real, as much as people my age be complaining about kids of today and that kind of thing, we raised the kids of today, and I ain't talking about whether you got kids or not, whether you have parents or not. We raised the kids of today. They were brought up in the world that we created, just as we were brought up in the world that the generations before us created. So we don't really get to complain about why the kids are the way they are, because we created that world. They're a product of the world that we created. And the music and the movies and the arts and culture and everything that we claim we don't like is all a result of that. Now, did we know it was going to turn out this way? No, of course not. But it is what it is. It is what it is. We saw the things that we didn't like of what the older generations were doing back then. And then when we got older, we started doing the things that we thought was best because we wanted to do things our way, and we did that. And it created this world, for better or worse. It created this world. And this is the world that produced that music. And that's the music that now speaks to the generations of today. And then, 30 years from now, kids of today, the teenagers of today, who are going to be the 30 plus 40-year-olds of tomorrow, well, not tomorrow exactly, but time. But in 30, 40 years time, when they're listening to whatever ways you listen to music in 30, 40 years, and they listen to the classic stations or the classic playlists, right? And they're going to be thinking, man, music of my generation was so much better. It's no good. It's the same thing. It's the endless cycle. And we just keep producing these grumpy old people. The reality is that we created this world and we raised the kids in this world. And now that they're getting older and they're making music and they're producing art and creating culture, that is a result of what we did. The music of our time spoke to us back then. And I'm listening to it now and it still speaks to me on some level. A lot of that is nostalgia. If I never heard it back then, would I still like it now? I don't know. Maybe not. But it's interesting when you listen to, old school music and the things that were being talked about and the way things are being talked about. And it is different. Of course it's different. It's a different time. So, I feel like there's just no such thing as bad music. It's just music that speaks to you and music that don't. And most likely, if you are in your 40s now, the music that's being produced now, most of it is not going to speak to you. And that's fine. It's not supposed to. That doesn't mean you can't enjoy it, of course. I enjoy lots of music that isn't made for me. I enjoy lots of movies that aren't made for me. I feel like you can still enjoy things knowing that you are not the audience it's intended for. That's fine to do that. But I do feel we got to appreciate the fact that we are not the audience anymore. We are not the demographic that all these things are being made for anymore. Back then we had our time and that time has passed and it was a good time. But that time has passed, and it's good to go back and listen to those music and watch those movies and appreciate what we did back then. But that time has passed. And it did what it did back then, and it did a lot of good for us back then. Well, maybe not all good. Let's be honest. No, some of it wasn't right. But it did what it did back then. That time has passed, and the people of the now, the kids of today, the youth of today, what they're producing is for the people of today, the kids of today, the teenagers of today, and they're gonna go on to produce music tomorrow that speaks to the kids of tomorrow, and it's endless, and eventually they're gonna say, yeah, music is trash now. But there's no such thing as bad music. It's music that speaks your music done, with the exception of Tekashi 69. That guy is trash. I ain't gonna lie. That dude is garbage. I don't know what that guy's on, but apart from Tekashi 69, there's no such thing as bad music. Just music that speaks to your music though. I'm playing. Listen, if you're a Tekashi 69 fan, then good luck. I ain't got. Yeah, hey, good luck to you, man. I don't, bro. That. But hey, listen. I guess he's doing something right because. But anyway. That's what I wanted to say today. Just kind of ramble a little bit about that, and just appreciating the fact that we've had our time. Our time has passed. And we can still enjoy things, we can still appreciate things, but we gotta accept the fact that we are not the main audience anymore, and we gotta do that because otherwise we do become the grumpy old guy complaining about this and complaining about that. Back in the 90s, we had this kind of, I guess now you'd call it a meme. Back then we just called it a running joke, I think, but this whole thing about, the grumpy old man, or back in my day, during the war, that kind of thing. We're becoming that. And actually, it kind of reminds me of something that Chris Rock said. Chris Rock did a stand-up special years ago. And one of the things he said in that was, be careful what you hate, because whatever you hate will end up in your life somehow. And I feel like that rings true for this. And maybe hate is too strong a word for what we're talking about, but certainly anything you don't like, you got to be careful about these things, because it's all energy, right? Whether you hate it or whether you just don't like it very much, it's all energy. And I think you got to be careful about not focusing too much on the things you don't like, because it will end up in your life somehow, because it's energy. And the more you put your time into cultivating that energy, you're just going to get better at cultivating that energy. And before you know it, you're going to be attracting more and more of that energy to you. So yeah, be careful about, I'm not saying you can't express, you don't like some. Of course you could say you don't like some. Of course you can express that. We have that right and freedom to be able to do that. I'm just saying, be careful about spending too much time on things that you don't like or things that you hate, and focusing too much on that, because it's cultivating that energy, and that energy which is bring it around you. And when you do that, you're not going to realize that there's so many things that you could be liking that you're just not bringing around you, because you've got all that negative energy. So yeah, be careful about spending too much time on things you don't like, because it's all energy. And yeah, just accept the fact that we are not the main audience anymore. We're the middle-aged men of today. Yeah, we're the middle-aged men of today, and God willing, we're gonna be the elderly. No, I can't even talk right now. Can't even talk properly. We're gonna be the elderly people of tomorrow. So yeah, be careful about spending too much time on things you don't like, because it's energy, and you just bring that energy around you, and just end up being grumpy and miserable, and ain't nobody liking that. So we are not the main audience for the musicians of today. We've had our time, and it was a good time, but let the kids today, let the teenagers of today have their time, because this is their world now, and they get to create art and create culture and create a whole new world for the kids of tomorrow to grow up in, and for them to complain about it later. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I rambled long enough. That's all I wanted to say. So until whenever, if ever, peace.